Hi, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Beter.
And this is the Brittany and Beter Podcast. Bitch.
Brr!
Hello, welcome back to the Brittany and Beter Podcast.
Hello.
I'm so excited that episode 3.
Yeah, here we are already. How crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
All right, so we've got some really cool things that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce what they are, Peter?
So, while we were trying to come up with what we talk about for this episode, because as this series goes on, you just will come to learn more and more about each of us as individuals. So, we were thinking about, where do we start? And for some reason, our brains went to things that have traumatized us. But we didn't want to expose our loved ones. So, we settled on our most traumatizing movies in our life.
Yeah.
5 to be exact each.
Oh, no, I think I've misunderstood the assignment.
What?
Because I've picked horror movies.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Pick anything.
Because when you said it like that, I was like, movies that have traumatized me. Like, I'm sure
Well, can you make that 4 and 5th?
What do you mean?
Because I haven't come up with...
So I have 6. I have 6 movies, but
I only came up
horror.
with 3. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, but
Mine
I
are all horror.
know for a fact that there's movies that are not horror. I
Why
thought
don't
this
we
was
do...
like
wait,
horror.
I got a good idea. What if we do 3 movies that are horror-ish or whatever, and then 2 that aren't horror?
Nah, I can't think of it off the cuff, bro. I've had 3 days to think about this.
I've had just now...
Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say the name of the 6, but I'm only going to talk about 3.
Yep.
Done.
Happy.
Easy. All right.
But I'm going to Anyway, yeah, you start.
You start.
You start with your bottom 3.
I don't have a bottom 3. I didn't rank them.
Things that have traumatized me. I don't know why. When I... you know what? This deserves a mention. Never-Ending Story.
Okay.
Fuck that movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's bad, bro. But it's like for 80s kids.
I remember seeing that on DVD when at Blockbuster when I was a kid. And I never was interested.
It's terrible.
I was never interested.
It's not good. It has aged terribly.
Did
don't show your kids, all right? Stop showing them. I hope that dies with our generation.
Did that traumatize you?
It's like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
But it's the creepiest, grossest, weirdest.
Ugh.
Like it's somewhat iconic. Do you know the Lux Dragon?
That big fluffy thing? I always wanted to touch it, but I didn't know what it was. It looks really cute.
I don't want to say anything bad about it, but it's just, you watch the movie, it's so sinister. So
really?
evil. Yeah.
Well, now I kind of want to watch it.
Watch it, but you're just going to be so grossed out. I hate it. And I watched it as a kid. And I'm sure I feel like it's the type of movie where our parents must have enjoyed it as kids. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I get you.
But I hate it.
Damn.
I hate it. And there's no way. I feel like I haven't met someone who our age who also hasn't hated it.
You know what?
Surely.
What I just thought of by you saying that. There was a movie that me and my sisters loved when we were kids. And when I was probably 19 or 20, I showed my 12-year-old cousin the movie because me and Ashley, my sister, were like, oh my God, you're going to love this movie. It's so good. And then we watched it and she hated it.
What was it?
And this makes me think that this must be the equivalent for us.
What is it?
So our parents love Never-Ending Story. So they showed us and we were like, ugh. It was The Witches with Angelica Houston,
The Witches.
which I thought when I was a kid was so good. I thought it was scary, the right
it's
amount.
gross.
Yeah, and then she watched it and she was like, oh, what is this? And we were like, what?
I like it.
I like it too.
I like it. Isn't Rowan... I feel like Rowan Atkinson's in that somewhere. I think he is.
I think he's he works at the
manager.
Yeah, he works at the hotel.
Yeah.
I think that's a good movie.
I prefer that over the new one.
I didn't see the new one.
It's Anne Hathaway doing an accent.
That's slack. I like Anne Hathaway.
I like it too.
Anyway,
but
should we talk about the actual movies on our list?
All right. We're just leaving it there. Just go straight into our top 3.
Well, okay, sure.
Do you have anything else before we get into it?
No, I just wanted to add that little.
Well, yeah, that's Never-Ending Story. I hate it.
Okay, so that's in your top 3 of movies that haunted
No. That's
you.
outside of my top 3.
Okay,
but that would.
I'm gonna start. Can I just say all 6 of mine, or are we going one for one?
Do one for one.
Okay,
do one for one.
The first one.
6.
I feel like you're gonna like this one.
What?
The Hills Have Eyes.
I've always wanted to watch it. I've not seen it.
You haven't seen The Hills Have
I haven't,
Eyes?
but it's always been on my to watch list.
Okay, can I talk about this for a hot sec?
Without spoiling, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I have a little side story, an anecdote for this movie. When I was a kid, I've been watching horror movies since I was like 7 or 8. My parents would never let me watch anything with a sex scene in it. But horror movies when people die,
there's a lot of sex scenes in horror movies though.
Well, bro. Anyway, this movie,
That's what
girl, wait till you. So my sisters who like raised me on like freaking horror movies, they are the ones that got me into horror, especially my older sister Larissa. We were always watching horror movies together. Yeah. And they rented this movie when I was probably like 8, like I was little. And we were home alone, the 3 of us. I think maybe I was a bit older. Maybe I was like 10 because Larissa would have been like, 15. And she was like trying to freak me out. She was like, come watch this movie with me and Ash. It's got mutants in it. It's really scary. And like, they were so mean looking back. They were like, there's dead mutant babies in it. It was awful. And I was like, no, I'm not watching it. Like I was so scared. I remember like going to my room and playing with my Bratz dolls because I was like, no.
One of your first?
No.
Right.
But I was still like, I didn't like the concept of it. It freaked me out. Anyway, so I never watched it. Yeah. And then fast forward, I think I was like 21 or 22. Yeah. My sister was up, she now lives in Melbourne. She was visiting and we were like, let's watch a horror movie that's like good. Like we want to watch a good one. And she put on The Hills Have Eyes and I'd never seen it. It made me sick. And it's like, by this point, it's probably 15 years old, maybe 12. It's old.
Probably older.
And it made me sick. It stood like the test of time. It was one of the I haven't watched it since.
Is it still good?
Still good. I've only watched it once.
Would you rewatch it?
I would, but I know that it's like
it's
sickening.
I know it's hardcore.
And it's like really scary to watch. Like you feel distress watching it. And there's a lot of stuff in it that's really awful. And I think like for a number of reasons why it's awful.
I have a feeling I know what.
Yeah, I don't know what you've heard about it, but like it's pretty hardcore.
I know that it's intense.
But it's really well done.
I actually don't know what the movie is though. Like I actually don't, but like I just haven't seen it. But I know it's always been on the to watch list because it has a reputation for sure.
I thought of it today when I was deep thinking like, what are my traumatizing movies? And then I was like, oh my God, The Hills Have Eyes. How did I forget that? Like, I'm so glad I remembered it because it's up there, bro. Like, I haven't watched it again since because of how much it made me feel when I was 21.
Damn.
So I really recommend it.
You watched it at 21?
I was 21 years old when I watched it and it still fucked me up. And I've been watching movies since I was 7.
Yeah, that's recent too.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. How many more do you have? So I'll figure out how.
All right, you just go.
We're dropping this. All right. Well, I'll go with I'll do my movies in like chronological order, like which one after the other. First movie. All right. So I watched my first MA movie when I was 6.
Jesus.
That was Borat. But it was lit. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, me and my brother used to watch that all the time when our parents went home.
Oh my God.
But that was my like first MA movie. My first R-rated movie was when I was in year 5. Year 5.
Young.
Year 5.
I think I was 13 when I watched my first R movie.
And it is the shirt. It is The Exorcist. So here's a little backstory with my connection with this movie because it's actually my favorite movie of all time. But the reason for that is like today, I don't think there's a movie that's left a bigger mark on me.
Really?
Yeah. To this day,
really?
To this day, no movies affected me more than that. Because I was like, when I watched that for the first time, I was like a range of emotions.
Bro, lift your mic up a bit.
Skirt?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that's gonna say. All right, should be right.
Okay.
But yeah, so. Okay, so here's a brief backstory. So when I was young, we had like the original Batman movies on VHS.
Oh my God, I love that.
And I used to watch them all the time, like religiously. Like they were always on for some reason. And what was weird, because it was Warner Brothers, you'd plug it in, you rewind it, and then like at the start, it would show like a montage of like 30 years of Warner Brothers sort of thing,
yeah,
right? You know what I mean?
I miss those things on VHS.
I miss like that era.
Yeah, me too. And you'd learn the trailers on your like...
Have you watched a DVD recently? Like just plugged in a DVD recently?
No, but I remember like loving the special features and I'd memorize like on the DVD the trailers of movies that were before you got to the main
That's
menu.
the thing. When you put in a DVD now and you just like, you're along for the ride, like they play trailers before like you get to the main menu. And it feels like you're in a cinema.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so
and you know,
lit.
I used to have a DVD, side note, of A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. And me and my sisters were obsessed with that movie. And there was, the special features on that movie are unparalleled to anything else. There was like a quiz you could do to find out what character you were from A Cinderella Story. And it was like all interactive. And there was like a music video for like a Hilary Duff song, and then like behind, like bloopers behind the scenes. There was so much stuff. I would play that quiz all the time.
DVD menus in that used to have like games in that.
Yeah,
do you remember
that's
like the animated movies? Yeah.
So
I
good.
miss that. I spent so much time doing that like as like before I did it. But anyway.
Yeah.
But no, so this VHS, it would have like this Warner Brothers like compilation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was a little kid, those movies affected me in a big way in various reasons. But in one of these reasons, this is one of the reasons. Basically, like it would play a compilation, and you'd watch it and be like, oh, there's like Batman clips in there and other like comedies and that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it'd show like,
oh god,
it'd show like a frame, like you see like The Shining, like Jack Nicholson like knocking down the door with the axe and all that. But then like you see like this random shot, and it always wigged me out as a kid because I was like, what the fuck is that? It was the Exorcist girl's head spinning, and it's like you see that and I'm like, I'm
just trying to watch Batman,
you know
bro.
What I mean? Exactly. And I used to watch it. I always used to say that, and I always used to be like, what the hell is that? Like I was like, what? Like what?
That's
the hell?
one of like the scariest moments of the movie too, and they play that.
Yeah, and
bro.
So fast forward years later, I've been year 5. And Scary Maze game is trending.
What's that?
Do you remember that maze? It used to be like online. You like basically like your mouse is like this like little dot thing, and you like have to trace it through like this maze, and you can't touch the walls. And if you do touch the walls,
oh my god, I like kind of remember, but also don't.
If you touch the walls, the Exorcist girl's face pops up.
Okay, no, I never played that. I never. That is so scary.
That was trending when I was in year 5. Everyone was playing it, and everyone was like getting like shit scared and that. And I remember when I played it. You know, I was like with people at primary school. I remember seeing that face and then recognizing it.
And you were like, I know
and then I was like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like I've seen that on bloody Batman. I talked to this one kid about it, and he was like, yeah, that's the Exorcist. I was like, what's that? He was like, it's the most fucked. Like he didn't say that, but he's like, it's the most like scariest movie of all time, something like that. You know what I mean? I was like, what? And then like he had access to like this. He's like, yeah, like he would like show me like clips from it on like YouTube or whatever. Like he was one of those kids that had like an iPod that had internet sort of thing.
Damn. I never had that.
Yeah, well, he let me borrow it to watch it.
He had it on his iPod.
He downloaded it onto his thing.
Damn, that's pretty
cool. Yeah. So, well, I was like so fascinated. This was before, like, so like he would show me clips and that. And then I was like so curious by this movie. And then around that time, I remember my sister. Do you remember Empire magazine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
oh my God.
they came out with an October issue, which I still have to this day.
I bought a Harry Potter issue when the final Deathly Hallows came out.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that
And I was
era?
like, this is the pinnacle of literature.
Bro, that era, like 2009, 2012, like that era of like movies and like
so
pop
good
culture and like
so
that sort of
good.
Thing. I miss that. Like,
Me too.
Well, they came out with an October issue of it was like an October issue. It was like 100 scariest movies of all time, right? And my sister got that, and then she showed me, and then I would like look at it, and I skipped to number 1. Number 1's The Exorcist, right?
Stop that.
So like, there's just all these things. I'm like, I just want to watch this movie, and I'm
Yeah.
talking to the same kid about it who introduced me to it, and he's like, oh, I can download it onto my phone, and you can borrow it.
What a good friend.
Yeah, mad. Like, shout out. I won't say his name, but he anyway, so he gives me his phone, and I'm still like, young, right? So like, I'm like year 5. I think everyone's asleep in my household.
Did you shit yourself?
Bro, I waited till everyone was like asleep. I had my own room. This was like a point in my life where I had my own room for the first time. I brought it out and I watched it like just by myself.
Oh
at
my
night.
God.
And it was so cooked. It's so cooked. Like it's so cooked.
What a story.
I was so like, I couldn't fathom.
There are definitely scenes in that movie that a kid in year 5 should not be watching.
There's one scene in particular, and you know
I know the exact scene you're talking
There's
about.
one scene in there, scarred me.
Yeah, of course it would scar
Scarred
you.
me.
It scarred me, and I watched it last year.
Yeah, scarred me.
Bro.
We watched it in cinemas for the first
Yeah.
time. Like, How was that for you?
I really liked it.
How
so
good
I
is it?
hadn't seen it since I was like also a kid, but I don't think I watched the full thing when I was a kid.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think I'd also just kind of seen clips from it. So I kind of knew what to expect, but then also like didn't. And so we watched it in cinemas was it Halloween?
It was Halloween.
Yeah, we watched it on Halloween. So we went, and then our friend Cam, did Bianca go?
No, Georgie.
And my girlfriend Delina, all of us went together.
We watched it in cinemas. That was my first time ever watching it in cinemas.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Do you know it's as of last year that was its 50th year anniversary.
It's pretty ahead of its time for like 50
Way
years ago.
ahead of its time. There still hasn't really been a movie like that since.
Well, you need to watch The Hills of Eyes. That's
like there's definitely like you could argue there's movies that are like more worse in like that degree sort of thing.
Yes.
But I feel like as far as like how ahead of the curve it is and for how mainstream it is.
There
was nothing like that before. Like the closest thing you had was Rosemary's Baby, and you watched that today.
I haven't seen that.
That was like the standard before this.
Right.
But you watch that and it's so tame in compared to this. It's so tame compared to this. And I love that movie, but still.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I was shook. Like I watched it. I had nightmares. Like I was like, I'm pretty sure I may have, I don't know, like I'm pretty, I don't know. I think I may have woken up like my mum and dad. Like I was sick, scared.
Yeah, I know exactly. Actually,
you know what
can I tell a story about that feeling of when you're so scared that you feel sick? The first time I ever watched Supernatural. So my show growing up from when I was literally, I think I was in year 3. So I was like 8. When I was like 8 to 21 was Supernatural. I lived for Supernatural. Ask any of my friends. I was upset in high school when Jensen Ackles got married because I was like, I have a chance with this man because I was 14 and delusional. I was upset. I loved Jensen Ackles. Nobody understands. Anyway, the first time I ever watched Supernatural was when the first episode aired on TV. And for some reason, my parents let me watch it. Yeah. I thought I was going to throw up. And I didn't want to tell them because I knew that if I told them, they weren't going to let me watch horror anymore.
Yeah, right.
And I loved most of the time I liked it, but I was always like shitting myself. And I remember like mum tucking me into bed and I just remember thinking like, I'm going to puke. Like I was so scared. I was so scared. In it? It was the Woman in White episode.
I don't remember.
And it's like this woman who kills her husband if they cheat on her.
Right.
And like she drowned her babies in the bathtub because he cheated on her, and then she didn't kill him. She killed her babies and then killed herself. And then she'd like wander on like highways at night and pick up men who are unfaithful and like kill them.
Damn.
Which actually is my origin story. Joking. That's a total joke. But how it scared me. Anyway, that's not on my list. Can I say another one on my list?
Am I done with this?
Are you?
No.
Okay. Well, we're 17 minutes in, bro.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, basically, anyway, so I was super like shook from it. And then it was like a 4-week period of like, I was like, so like that from it, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't stop thinking about it. But then like eventually I grew the nerve to watch it again 4 weeks later. And then when I watched it for the second time, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Just like as a film.
Wow.
It's my favorite film to this day because I look at it like to me, it's the greatest horror of all time. So, and horror being my favorite genre, like that, it's pinnacle cinema for me. And I feel like I've always wanted to be an actor all my life, but that was the movie that made me want to direct.
That's so
That was the movie I watched and I was like, I want to make something like this. And then I feel like I found it with this boarding house. Years later, it was like, this is what that is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Most impactful movie in my life ever. That's why it's my favorite. But it
and
was
you're wearing it today.
Definitely top 3 traumatizing.
Love that.
So moving on to you.
All right. I've decided to cut 2 from my list. So I've got 4.
Yes. Good.
All right. So my next one is a movie that I don't know that anyone else has watched except for my sisters. And it's called Fragile.
No.
It's like an early 2000s horror movie. I don't know if you know this actress. Her name is Callista Flockhart.
No.
She was like in this show, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like a long time running show. She's an established actress, but I don't really think our generation knows her that well.
Yeah.
And basically, I think this is why I'm now a hypochondriac because it's set in a children's hospital.
Gotcha.
And it's terrifying. So this woman, like, she's American and she goes on this boat and moves to England and it's modern day. And she goes to work at a children's hospital that's closing down and they're moving all the patients to a bigger hospital closer to the city. So she goes to this hospital and she forms a bond with this little girl who has like a chronic illness.
Yeah.
And it's so, oh my God, the acting is beautiful in this movie, but it's a horror. It's fucking scary. And basically what happens is she's in this hospital and they're preparing to close down, so they don't have as many patients as they normally do. Floors on the hospital are closed, like there's levels that are closed and wings that are shut down because they're preparing to move. And basically children are waking up in the middle of the night screaming because their bones are fracturing and their bones are breaking and nobody knows why. Like it's just randomly, they just wake up screaming and it's like horrific. It's so scary.
It's like children screaming for however long.
No, it's not like an abundance of it. But it's like children getting hurt and nobody can tell why. And this woman knows that she can tell that there's something sinister going on and nobody believes her. Right. Nobody is believing her. And it's just like her journey of trying to save these children and get them out because there is something sinister in the hospital that's trying to keep them there.
Right.
It's so scary.
That's a crazy premise.
And I can imagine when I was thinking of movies today, I remembered this one scene at the end of obviously the evil villain. Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it. In its like grotesque form. And it is scarred. I remember watching that when I was probably like 8 or 9, again, really young. And that traumatized me. I remember seeing that and thinking that is the most horrific thing that I've ever seen in my life.
Out of everything?
At that time for sure. I think it has been surpassed. But I remember at that time, and even now though, I can still see it and I just like want to throw up because it's so scary. I highly recommend it. I think it would still stand. Right. And I remember the DVD that we had of it was scratched because we bought it from like a Blockbuster sale when Blockbuster was closing down. I remember buying it. And then I remember being like, oh man, it's scratched. And then there was like one scene that you could never properly watch, but you just like skip over it and you could just continue watching it.
You ever watched that scene like years later?
I haven't watched it since the DVD. Okay. I need to revisit it. It's a really good movie. Highly recommend.
Well, there's something else in there for you if you do revisit it.
Yeah, for sure. Whole scene that I haven't seen. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
My next movie. Yeah, these next two movies I won't talk about as long. Yeah. Mainly because I don't want to. So the next movie that like affected me as much as The Exorcist did was 7 years later. I had seen so much horror by that point. That magazine that I talked about, I would use that as a checklist.
Wow.
I literally worked my way down.
That's really cool.
And that's majority of horror movies I've seen in my life was from that list. Movie that wasn't on that list but came out around the same time as that list was this movie called A Serbian Film. Have you ever heard of that?
I think you've told me. I haven't watched it though.
How do I describe it without like? It's horrific. The closest thing I can compare it to is Human Centipede.
I never watched that,
but I've seen all three.
Of course you have. I'm not surprised.
But where that is like, it's shocking to be shocking. This is like I get this is like actually a genuinely good foreign film. It just has the most horrific things in there, as far as like, bro, it has like everything in there. Wow. If you know what I mean. Like,
I don't, but I don't need
you know
to
what
explain.
I mean. Explain. There's all sorts of awful things in there, but it's all there's some awful. If you know, you know. But there's some awful stuff in there. It is a legitimate movie. It's
is it on streaming services?
Possibly.
I might try and find it.
Because it is a genuinely good movie and it actually has a lot to say.
What language is it in? Serbian?
It's in Serbian.
Yeah.
It's about it's okay. So brief plot synopsis. It's about a retired porn star who decides to do one last movie. Right. And there's a lot of like euphemisms and analogies throughout the whole thing. But he goes on this journey that is like it's like when I finished watching it, it was the first time. I'd seen so many horror movies since. The first time since.
Please tell me you weren't a kid though when you saw it.
I was year 12.
Oh, that's
year
okay.
12.
Yeah,
but I was in high school. I was telling people about it. Like, I got another movie that just popped out. That freaked me out. Since you got 4, I need to quickly. All right, so you know Wolf Creek?
Yes.
I love Wolf Creek 1 and 2.
I've never seen the second one.
So the second one's just as good as the first.
Cool.
Just as good.
I'll check it out.
The first one though, the first time I watched it, I have cousins that live in Bega.
Oh my God.
Bushland.
Yeah.
We used to visit them like at least once a year, like back in the day, like as a family. I got a bunch of cousins there, that sort of thing. I went over there. They had Wolf Creek on DVD, and like we were hanging out for the night, but I really wanted to watch it, so I waited for everyone to go to bed, and I watched it on my laptop in a
girl,
in the backyard, right?
In a caravan.
In a caravan out back.
No chance.
I watched it, bro. It's like the movie to not watch.
I mean, like anyone could have told you that. Anyone could have told you that.
It was like, but I love it. I love it so much. Both number 1 and 2.
I think I've only seen Wolf Creek one time.
You need to watch it again. You need to watch the second one. Second one's so good.
Okay.
Second one is like on par.
Okay, I'll check them out.
It has one of my...
This is good as well because now you're adding to my list of stuff to watch. I love that.
I definitely add what you've said.
Yes.
Oh, the Hills of Mars. That's always been on my list.
Yeah.
That's always been on my list.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, you do... Is this your final?
I'm going to do my last two.
Last two.
And I'm going to put them together because it's by the same director.
I've got
creator.
one last, but I won't talk about it.
All right, mine are like the basic, everybody will say this, but literally Hereditary and Midsommar. Bro,
And Midsommar?
I really liked Midsommar. Hereditary like fucked me up more, but Midsommar was like hard to watch.
Hereditary was one of my favorite movies of that year.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You know, my sister said, Larissa, this is to Larissa. She said it was boring and she turned it off. Girl, what do you mean?
Nah, it's good.
There are some things that happen in that movie.
How good is Toni Collette?
She's
so
phenomenal.
Good. She's phenomenal. She has like monologue after monologue after monologue.
And she nails all of them. All of them.
She's great consistently.
Yes.
And it's one of the most unique horror movies ever.
I agree.
It's one of the best of recent times.
And I remember watching it. So I lived in an apartment at the time when I watched it, just with me and my girlfriend Delina. We were home alone because we lived only us two.
Yeah.
In an apartment, watching it late at night. We were terrified. I think that was like one of the last movies that I was actually terrified in. We were scared to even be in the living room. We were like, we should watch this in bed because we're safer in our bedroom for whatever reason. I don't know how that makes sense, but we were and we were on the 4th level. Like, girl, nobody could get into the apartment. Like, the security was great in that apartment. We were on the 4th story. Like, do you know what I mean?
That won't stop spirits in that.
Exactly. Exactly. We were so scared. I think that movie is really well executed.
It's phenomenal. It's like a 10.
The script is perfect, but like all the actors do such a good job at getting the plot to where it needs to go.
And I think by the time it reaches like the climax, you're in for something you've never seen before.
Yeah. And you just have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
Although there are a few red herrings that I really liked.
Yeah.
That I was like, that means something, but I don't know what yet. And I love when movies do that.
Well, that same director, I forget his name, but
Ari Aster. Ari Aster.
Have you seen his recent film?
Which one is it?
It's called Beau is Afraid.
I haven't. With Joaquin Phoenix.
I watched that recently.
Is it good?
It's
Is it horror?
It's like psychological thriller.
Oh, I love psychological
I love
that genre.
But it's like it's Joaquin Phoenix having a schizophrenic episode for like 3 hours.
So like the Joker Part 2?
It's literally like what he does.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you know
cool.
what I mean? So you're in for
I
it.
didn't know that he did that movie.
Yeah, it's not as talked about as the most recent two because it's very divisive.
Really?
It's a hate it or love it movie. I love it.
I'm gonna check
I love
that
it.
one out.
It's worth watching if you like the other two.
And I like his other
And
work.
I liked it more than Midsommar.
I really like Midsommar.
Midsommar was a letdown from the first movie.
You mean from Hereditary?
Yeah. Hereditary is like a 10 to me.
I don't know.
Midsommar's like a 7.
There's a lot in Midsommar that's to be appreciated.
I agree.
Okay. Cool.
I agree. It's a good movie. I just feel like they could have done more with it.
Right. Can I add my last two? But I'm not going to speak about them. I'm just going to like mention them.
No, just mention. I think, mention. Just
Okay.
mention whatever. I don't care.
My other two. This is
we're
our podcast.
We're talking about our movies, all right?
This is our podcast. There are no rules. So just quickly mention like the ones that could have been in the top 4.
Yeah.
The Ring
Oh, yeah.
and Barbarian.
Yeah, Barbarian recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that you watched too, remember?
Yeah, I like Barbarian.
Yeah, I like Barbarian.
The Japanese Ring?
Oh, I'm such a letdown. No. I haven't seen it.
I like the American.
But I remember walking in to at some like family friend's house when I was 7, and there were siblings as well, right? And the youngest, he was a boy. He was also my age. They were all allowed to watch The Ring, including the boy that was my age, but I wasn't. So I was left out, stuck with the adults while they all watched The Ring. And I remember opening the door to be like, I want to come in here. And man, they were watching the Japanese Ring, and I saw the scariest shit of my life.
I haven't seen it, but I know that it's like on
It's
another level.
so
I know it's on
good.
another level.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the Japanese Grudge. I've seen scenes from the Japanese Grudge.
Wait. No. I'm so wrong. The
Is it
Ring, yes, but they were watching The Grudge.
Ah.
And they were watching the Japanese Grudge.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh my God.
I know the Japanese version of both like...
I should watch the Japanese version
I
of
know.
both.
They're both on the to-watch list.
Yeah, for sure.
My last movie that I'll bring up, this one is the movie I don't recommend. Just don't watch it. Save yourself. It's called... I can't believe I'm talking about it. It's called... what is it? Salo.
Salo?
Salo, 120 Days of something. If you type it in...
Well, how do you spell
it'll pop
Salo?
up. S-A-L-O.
What does that mean?
I don't even know. All I know is that it's an Italian movie.
Right.
It's Epstein's Island, the movie.
Oh, nah.
It's like, but it's a movie.
So it's fiction, but it's not real.
It's fiction, but you watch it and it's like, oh, this happens in real life.
That's terrible.
That. And it's terrible. And it's like...
Is it terrible like in the way that it's not a good movie, or like it's terrible because it's like awful to watch?
Both. Like, I feel like the thing the movie gets right is that it communicates its point.
Right.
You watch it and you finish watching it
And you feel sick.
and you're like, great. Like, not great.
But like miserable.
Yeah, it's actually, I feel like this movie that's like made me feel like the most hopeless I've ever felt.
Damn.
I've never felt the way that movie made me felt
Okay,
like
so
it.
don't watch it on a sad day.
Just don't watch it. Just know it exists.
Then why are we giving it airtime, bro?
Just know that it exists. But it's also like I know like the whole like everything in that movie, like it was like consensually made and blah blah blah. Like it, you know, like
God.
no, in the sense that like
actors.
it's not like a snuff movie.
Yeah,
you know
okay.
what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's a movie. You watch it. The movie tells you its premise right at the start, and then you just watch it happen, and it's like.
I don't know if I want to watch
Don't watch
that.
it. I'm saying you don't watch it.
Yeah, I
but
don't
I'm
know
telling
if I
you.
could, like-
But that fucked me up. I
believe that it would.
I watched that. I was like, this is terrible.
All right.
Because I had a phase. So there's like this iceberg online. You know those iceberg charts where it's like
No.
there's things at the top that everyone knows, and then
Oh,
like
yes.
you go
You
down.
don't
the
know
list.
what's underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a little phase where I saw one of those images go viral, and it was just like a list of fucked up movies. And then I was like, I went through a phase of like, I'm going to try and watch as much of these as possible. I stopped once I got to that movie.
Yeah, right.
Because it just keeps getting worse. And then I was like,
I've seen enough.
I've seen enough.
Yeah.
All right. So are we talking about this week's albums now?
Yeah, let's go to something a little bit more positive and lighter. Like, I think that's a good spot to end it. Let's talk about our album recommendations for this episode.
Yeah.
And we have both decided that we're going to be on the same level with the albums that we pick. It was Peter's idea to choose something that's like a lit album.
Yes, exactly. Because we want to try and keep the albums not similar, but
like on the same level, like the same
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
Your version of my
something.
version and my version of your version.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so if
That's
you
cool.
tuned into last week's episode, you would see that we exchanged Lil Peep and
Halsey,
which we will discuss in
a separate little clip.
separate little clip if you're interested.
Yeah.
But for this week's music recommendations.
Oh my God.
You go first.
You go first.
You go first.
No, I went first last time.
Did you?
I can't remember, but I want you to go first.
All right. Well, fine.
I'm so excited.
Okay, cool. So I've been thinking, I'm like, so from what I understand for you,
Yeah.
I know you like, there's rap music you have heard that you like.
Yeah. A lot of it's very mainstream commercial.
Yeah, that's fine. I love mainstream commercial. I love all of it. But like, not all of it, but basically I know for like, as far as albums go, I know you're probably not that like, I don't know where you're at as far as like what rap albums you've heard.
Right.
So knowing that I'm basically going to be your guide into this genre, I figured, well, because I was debating amongst myself like, oh, what's the first thing I give? And I was thinking like, it probably just makes the most sense to like kind of not do my exact journey or whatever, but at least just at the very most start where I started sort of thing. Because where I started to this date, it's my favorite album of all time.
Damn.
It's the first album. It's the first mini album of many things. Like it's the first CD I've ever owned, the first
Wow.
vinyl I've ever owned, like the first like all sorts of things. And that album is Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg. It is his debut album.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, it's my favorite album of all time. And that's the thing. I love his whole catalog. It's my favorite catalog in music ever. And I've heard so many artists, like whole discographies. To this date, it's my favorite. This is the album that kicks it all off. It's like it was super groundbreaking at the time. It's like, it's a party album. That's what you need to know about it.
You're making me so glad that I have picked the album I have picked. Because I'm going to be saying the same things about my album.
That's why I was prefacing it. Like, it has to be like similar. Like, cause like obviously like if I'm going to give you a big album, you have to give me like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this album, it was a lot for me in many ways. Like, you have to understand when you listen to it, one, it's like, it's a completely different perspective in life. Mm-hmm. It's a different time. Mm-hmm. Like, he'll probably say things that you don't agree with. But overall, but what he's communicating through this whole album is like, this is his life. Cool. And that's what you need to know. I'm keen to listen to it because I know that this is one of your biggest albums. Yeah, exactly. So I just thought I'd leave it there. Nice. All right. Are you ready for mine? Yes. Because I'm going to do a little preface as well for my album. This album was also, ahead of its time in the way that the artist, this is their favorite album that they've ever made. Right. And they have a long career. Right. And this is their favorite album. Like, they've said that explicitly. It's also like a really fun album. Yeah. Like, I used to listen to this when I used to go out clubbing, like while I was doing my makeup and like having prees. Like, this is the album. It's really well produced. It's just sonically, it's so good. Yeah. It is so good. Are you ready? Yeah, waiting. Blackout by Britney Spears. Nice. Fire. And I love it because it's your OG artist and it's my OG artist. Nice. So Blackout was released in 2007, right before she was put on the conservatorship. Right before. And I've been thinking a lot about this. I was still going to make a TikTok talking about my thoughts, but then I made it and then deleted it because I was like, whatever. Like, I actually don't really care to share this. Like, you know what I mean? Anyway. You always can. There's nothing stopping you. I think about like where Britney Spears was in 2007. I'm really going to try and condense this because I could talk about this for a whole podcast episode. From what I understand. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We could always go further into it because I only know so little as well. Yeah. But from what I do know, I just know that there was a point in her career where things got like really bad publicity by the media and she got bullied. This was then. Right. And she produced one of the best albums. Before or during or? Both. Right. So she just had 2 babies, like pretty much back to back. Like their age difference is not a whole lot. I think it's like 18 months or something. Something really short. Yeah. Maybe even less. I think they're like, this is what blows my mind. She was in and out of the studio. Damn. She would go in because the paparazzi was so bad, record the song once, and that's what made the track. She was so efficient because she'd go to the studio. It was a tiny little box studio to try and keep it secret. Paparazzi would hound it and she'd have to leave. And so she was so strategic and the album still sounds that good. Damn. And the songs are just that good. Like party banger after party banger. She's got classics, bro. Yeah. And a lot of the classics are on Blackout. Nice. Piece of Me, Give Me More. Like it was when she started to really go, like she changed her sound with this album. Wow. She dyed her hair black. She like mixed up her aesthetic. She went from like, you know her. Oh, 2007. That would have been around the time that like when I was like old enough to like be listening into like the So Fresh DVDs, the CDs, you know what I mean? And she would have been. I know. I think I know. That's probably where my introduction into Britney Spears would have come from. And she was crazy. Really. This was like a revolutionary album. I remember getting the CD for either like my birthday or Christmas or something, and I was like, you know that meme of the Pope where he's like holding it? That was me. I was like, this is such a good album. I remember listening to songs in the album, being like, I should not be listening to this. Like this is like an R-rated song. Yeah. And now I listen to it as an adult and I'm like, I'm not sick of this album. This album is still good. And I've been listening to it for like almost 20 years. Almost 20 years. That's crazy. That is crazy. 17 years. I've been listening to this for a long time. About 10 years. Yeah. About 10 years. But like, I listened to it when I was in high school and like, you know, I was like downloading songs on my phone and like, I had like the YouTube downloader sort of thing. So like I would download a song and then I download a Snoop song and then I download a song, then I download a Snoop song. And then like I delete the other songs to make room for Snoop songs. And then I'd be like, I'm like, there's one album that everyone talks about and it's this album. Do you know? I'm like, oh, sorry, I cut you off, go on. Yeah, well, anyway, that. Britney Spears has always been in my top 5 artists every year. Most listened, like on Spotify. Yep. And she hasn't released an album since 2016. Damn. And she's still up there because I still listen to her that much. Because her songs are timeless. Yeah. I cannot wait for you to listen to this album. No, I can't wait for you to listen to this album. There's songs on there that you already know.
Yeah.
like Gin and Juice and that sort
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah,
classic.
like that's on there.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that song.
do you know this album, when it came out, it was the biggest debut, like sold debut for any artist ever,
Wow.
regardless of genre. And it wasn't broken until a decade later by 50 Cent.
A decade.
Yeah. This was the most like
Jeez.
anticipated rap album ever at that point in time.
That's really cool.
It sold 4 million by the end of the year and it came out in November.
Wow.
And then today it's like sold like 11 for like, this is like a ghetto album too. Yeah.
Was it released in the 90s?
90s, 93.
Yeah, 93.
93.
Damn.
And he was like only like early 20s.
Really?
Early 20s.
Oh,
And
I can't wait. I'm actually excited to listen to it. That'll be cool.
Yeah, 100. So
Cool.
that is our music recommendations for this week.
I actually think that wraps up episode 3.
That does wrap up episode 3.
How fun. I actually love this episode. I had so much fun chatting about all this stuff
Let
with
us know your most traumatizing movies in the comments and reviews section.
Yeah. And make sure that you subscribe on Spotify because we don't want you to miss out on future episodes.
And tune in on YouTube as well for those who prefer it that way.
And we're also going to be releasing another episode about those albums we recommended last week. So make sure you tune into that if you want to know our opinions on them.
If you're interested. But thank you very
Which
much.
you will be. All right.
See ya.
See you next time. Bye.
Brr.